Good evening, Razorback fans. Welcome to another episode of the Hog Talk Podcast, live from the Sterling Soap and Roastery Studios, part of the Believe and Buzz Radio Network, where you can hear us each week on 106.7 Buzz 2 in Central Arkansas. All live shows are presented to you by Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark. I'm Porter Hayes. Alongside me, as always, is Adam Hall. Tonight, we'll be going over the big win over Texas Tech, 93-86. We'll discuss some quarterback coaching hires for the quarterback's coach at Arkansas, talk a little CFP, but huge win for the Razorbacks yesterday. I think if I'm not correct, the clip we were going to play, Cal was talking about what we were talking about on Thursday's show of the schedule he has put out, the games that he has put out, those games, Michigan State, hungry on Michigan Steak, and Duke, get you ready for games like this. And for them to prove that they can win games like this. I mean, it was a battle. Toppin, again, was having a day. He ended up with 30 points. Christian Anderson had 26. And I was curious. The key to this game was who is going to step up for Arkansas and score. Carter Knox, Trevor Brazile stepped up. Trevor Brazile, 24 points. Carter Knox, 20. Darius Acuff had 20. Adam, you remember, somebody's going to have an off night and somebody needs to step up. Malik Thomas, 8 points, and they still won this game. There's so many layers. We'll get into this first segment with this team there's a lot that goes into the meaning of them winning this game and what they proved yesterday.
100%. And Trevor talked about it post game that, more or less this was the redemption game for the players that were here last year. This has been circled. This has been on their minds. This Texas Tech squad ended their season last year. So a lot of these guys have been waiting for this moment. And, the first half of the game, there were times, Arkansas got down 10 and you're just sitting here kind of an uneasy feeling, because I feel like that in that atmosphere at first, fans showing up. I mean, it was 11 a.m. The seats took a little while to fill, but for the fans to get there, get loud, get the team going. Even I think they got within 3 before the last second 3 before halftime. Right before halftime, Arkansas really kind of had the momentum back, even with Texas Tech hitting that 3. So they carried that into the second half. And I mean, it was balls to the wall, if you will. I mean, on the floor for loose balls, scrapping, clawing, fighting, doing whatever they needed to do to get the ball. Trevor Brazile had himself a game. And if we can get that Trevor Brazile consistently, there's no telling what this team could do. And then, like we all saw, everybody saw, JT Toppin could take as many steps as he wanted and not get called for a travel at any point in time.
Absolutely. I mean, he was out there skating. It seemed like sometimes. I mean, his both feet were moving and spinning. And, I get where the game of basketball is going with these gather steps and all this stuff nowadays. It's almost becoming crazy, how many steps they can truly take in the NBA and what they can, like the clip of Giannis. Mm-hmm. I mean, having the ball in his hand and they're sitting there saying, well, you can have the ball in your hand and sit there and do 4 or 5 steps. And then who was it? Grayson Allen doing that step through, mm-hmm. We're seeing now AAU ball. We're seeing now what's going to end up affecting college basketball when you're talking about what's a travel anymore. And so that changes now how you defend the game, how you defend the player, because it's not just that the extra steps now a carry anymore. You really have to, and I feel for the refs on this. The game's evolving. So what are you looking for? How do you, in a split second with the speed of the game, how can you determine where your gather step? It's easy to slow these clips down and dissect. Okay, right here now, there's his gather step. Now he gets 2 steps after that. And I think we're taking away from the game opposed to really adding on to what we thought's traditional basketball. And it's just making it harder for the refs. So you're going to see more missed calls like this because the rules have changed on what steps anymore. And I think that's what we got to get used to. I think now it happened with Duke with Boozer and his arm. Now we're seeing Toppin, but Toppin was an animal. I mean, he looked every bit of what last year. And I told you I was very surprised on just him coming back. And I guess money. I mean, we can say money, but it was the fact that he looked like an NBA player. He was doing his job, but the fact, you look at Trevin Brazil, 10 boards on top of his 24 points, and they shot 65% from the free throw line. I mean, this is a game that, to be honest, Arkansas should have lost. Shooting poorly, one of your top scorers had 8 points, but you look at what happened with Darius Acuff, 20, Carter Knox, 20. You had 3 people score 20 points or more. And we've been saying that back in the Musselman days. It's going to take 2 or 3 guys to give you 20 for you to start winning some of these games. And that's what they did.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, it helps shooting 10 for 19 from 3. You can kind of say, poor free throw shooting for Arkansas compared to the rest of the season, only getting 65%. But I think Arkansas attacking the rim like they did is what put them at the line 16 more times than Texas Tech, shooting 16 more free throws. The thing with the steps, first it was a lot of people had problems with the Euro step, and that's evolved, to these gather steps and whatnot. I put this solely back on referees because as a referee, you see more basketball than the average fan. And if I can, and I know it's completely different watching it from the privacy of your own home, you're comfortable watching it on TV, whatever. But also, you've got 3 refs on the court watching various parts of the game. They're closer. They can see this more. And it's their job to understand the differences between a travel and gather steps and what have you. And me and one of my coworkers, a former teammate of mine, like we sit here and we talk about this a lot because there's a lot of fans who want to call travel. Like I'm going to use the Grayson Allen one as the example. A lot of people wanted to call that a travel. 100% was not a travel just because of the gather step. I think that this goes back to the referees not doing their job, not the players.
Yeah.
Because if it was called more, they would cut down on it or, find something else to do or whatever. But it was just like with the Euro step, and now we're with the gather steps. It's a lot of folks I just don't think understand it. So they immediately call out, oh, that's travel. And it's not. What JT Toppin was doing, clear as day travel.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when you have your pivot foot planted and then you pick it up for 2 to 3 steps, that right there, point blank period, travel. But a lot of folks, and it's like I said, especially referees, I think they just need to watch a little bit more. And this is what the refs are paid to do. So in my opinion, rather than like a couple of years back, when they made and implemented the Jalen Williams rule when it came to taking charges, I believe y'all should really focus on how to determine when players travel. So whatever meetings, whatever off-season training you do as referees, learn how to call a travel.
Yeah, well, because there was somebody was dissecting a clip of he was out on the wing and he got the ball. And it looked like he almost stepped out too, but he was moving both of his feet out there on the wing and he caught the ball and, he faced up and then he kept moving his pivot foot. And then he drove to the middle of the lane and scored. I don't know if nowadays refs are looking more so the defense and the ball opposed to looking at footwork. I think, like you said, if you take more initiative of looking what they're doing with their feet. But again, Adam, when we go to this Kentucky game and we're watching this stuff live, it's easy to watch this stuff on TV, but I can even tell a difference. Look at softball first. When I was up in the press box watching softball games, and then I was down right behind the plate watching the speed of the ball, the bat, all that. It's a big comparison, big difference in what you're really truly watching, the speed of the game, how fast this is going. So that's where these refs got to come in. They got to really take control of the game. And you look again, 23 bench points. I mean, 10 threes. They shot 52% from the 3-point line, and Texas Tech hit 13 threes.
Mm-hmm.
We knew that Christian Anderson was going to give you – he was 10 of 17, hit 5-11 for threes yesterday. And then let's see, Trevor Brazile, 4 for 5. Dude, spot up. You talk about somebody that is turning into an automatic corner 3 shooter. Trevor Brazile is that dude.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the fact that we're finally getting the Trevor Brazile back that we once loved. We knew that was there. And when you have guys like Acuff and Thomas, I mean, Billy Richmond, you have that much talent. You're having the freedom of shooting. You're not feeling pressured to be the guy that I have to give 24 points. You're more relaxed. We know how shooters go when you're relaxed and you're in the rhythm and you're shooting the ball. Your muscles are relaxed. The muscle memory of shooting a basketball when you're out there, if you're just out there solo shooting, if you're relaxed and just shooting up shots, more are going to go in opposed to you're tensed up, you're pressured. It is, we're seeing a team come together, clicking. I think this is going to be the start of something big, and they've got 3 games before SEC play. I love what we're able to see. If Carter Knox finds his groove, and you know, when we're talking about knowing your role, you could still go out and give out 20 points if Malik Thomas is hitting. But now you're knowing that if somebody's not, who's going to step up? And I said last week with DJ Wagner on the court, he played 27 minutes. I'm starting to change my view on it. Darius Acuff at the point. This team is flowing better with Darius at the point opposed to DJ.
Mm-hmm. And that was one thing I thought of during the game was, you know, what we've said about this could be in a game or even previous ones for DJ Wagner to come in and kind of run things. I'm not going to say put it to shame or shut our mouths or whatever, but, you know, Darius Acuff proved why he was there.
Mm-hmm.
DJ Wagner looked a little bit slow at times. He got beat a few times, caught looking slow first step. And, you know, Acuff is just balls to the wall the entire time, and more power to him. It's one thing I think some people are uncomfortable with is playing 90-0.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that Darius Acuff just has that 5th gear that doesn't stop once it gets going. Now, sometimes, yeah, that can get you in a little bit of trouble. But here yesterday, I mean, even a few games ago when he had his first double-double and he had 4 or 5 turnovers, but people were more concerned with the turnovers than the fact that he had a double-double. You know, it's one of those, if he's going to produce that way, I'll take a few games here and there of 4 or 5 turnovers. Malik Ewan, thank you for showing up. I mean, you know, I know 18 minutes, 9 points, 6 rebounds, but when he was in there,
Key buckets.
Key buckets, 4 for 5 field goals. Everything that he did when he touched the ball, it mattered. It was smart. He knew what to do in those moments. You know, it's another game that Pringle disappeared a little bit. So maybe it's something once we get to SEC play that we'll hopefully see another side of Nick Pringle. We'll see the side that we saw at South Carolina or Alabama. Just because maybe he's a bit more comfortable playing against those teams he's been playing against for the last few years. But at the same time, this is the game and this is the team that I wanted to see yesterday. And we'll play this clip here in a second. You know, it's like, just like Cal said, you know, with the way the schedule was made, it's done for a reason. Those 2 losses against Michigan State and Duke helped them more than anything.
Biggest thing too is the fact that in the first half of this game, anything Arkansas was doing, Texas Tech had an answer for. I mean, they led 49-43 at the half. In the second half, you were waiting on, all right, can Arkansas take the lead and keep the lead? There was 7 lead changes during this matchup, and Arkansas only led 6 minutes the whole game. So when you're talking about the first half of, you know, I mean, Texas Tech was just hitting big time shots. It would get between 2 or 3, and they would always hit a 3 to go up 4 and then go up 7, or keep it right there at arm's length where they had the advantage over Arkansas. Second half was a complete story. I mean, they outscored Texas Tech 50-37 in the second half. This is what you're going to need. And you're talking about going 90-0. And you look at this schedule coming up. You got Queens on Tuesday, and then you got a big game against Houston in New Jersey on Saturday. You get a 9-day break before you play James Madison on Monday, before you welcome in Tennessee on January 3rd. But when you look at, I'll share the screen real quick. Let me remove this, and I'll add the other one. I might have to, nope. Let me see. Stop screen. But when I'm pull up the schedule, and we'll look at this SEC schedule for a second, you'll get what I'm saying with you got Tennessee and then out Ole Miss. You don't have like a gauntlet Saturday, Wednesday slate where you're going to have to really rest or really play full 90 minutes 2 times in a week, because then you got at Auburn, then you get South Carolina, then you have at Georgia, then a big game against Vanderbilt, depending on, now they're ranked really high right now. So let's see what happens now when some of these teams start playing an SEC schedule and they start weeding each other out. Then you got LSU at Oklahoma, Kentucky at Mississippi State, LSU, Auburn, Alabama, Missouri. I mean, you see where I'm getting at. You don't have 2 huge matchups, and this is subject to change now with, say, like Texas A&M starts blowing up, and then you have Texas A&M, Florida back-to-back, Wednesday, Saturday. I think the schedule's set up to where Arkansas can play up for these real big games, Florida, Alabama. You have February 18th, and then you play Florida on the 28th of February. But then you go to January. You don't play Kentucky till the 31st. How they looked against Indiana. They look like a totally different team. That's the team I want to come into Bud Walton Arena. The team that they played against Indiana. I don't want a blowout. I want a war, because I want this team to be seasoned, to have these tough games, because when you're talking about these Saturday, Tuesday matchups, back-to-back, that's what you're going to get into when you go into these weekend tournaments, when you're playing on a Thursday, then a Saturday, and then you get a week off, the Sweet 16 and all that. This team is going to be special, and I think a lot of it is what we've been talking about all year long so far, is how Cal has constructed this schedule where you're playing multiple big-time games to get up. But before I turn it back over to you, the big thing is now, you had this Texas Tech game circled on your schedule. You knew you were playing up for that. I want to see that for the Houston game. I want to see that for the Tennessee game. I want to see you playing big against big-time opponents, and not just because of what happened last year, to where emotionally you're playing up for the game because of the results last year.
I mean, if that's what they're going to do, I'll just say this. I mean, looking at that first SEC game, you lost 76-52 last season to Tennessee. So that right there, I mean, I hope that game circled for you too. Whatever you need to do to show up that game, by all means, do it. I look at it this season. Of course, like you said, when we get into SEC play, we'll see what teams step up, what teams fall off. It's one of those that I think that we've talked about over the last year, how deep the SEC has become in basketball. And I think that there's a possibility. And some of this, I'm going to say, is Auburn losing Bruce Pearl. Like, I get it. You replaced him with his son, but I still think that there's going to be a little bit of a drop off there. And I don't know if we're going to see a team like, South Carolina have the terrible season that they had last year, even though they beat Arkansas.
Yeah.
But it's just, we're seeing this Vandy team. We're seeing even Missouri with the recruiting classes and everything that they're getting. Like, people are buying into Coach Gates over there at Missouri. So I think that you are getting more well-rounded teams in the SEC, which is going to make it that much more difficult. We look at the schedule and it might not seem like we play Texas A&M and we play Florida or whatever. But that's one of those games that even a not so good Texas A&M team, that game is always still a tough game when Arkansas and Texas A&M play each other.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when Mississippi State was terrible, whether it was football or basketball, they always play Arkansas tough. And it, no rhyme or reason, but that game was always closer than it should have been.
Yeah. And when you look at the standings right here, what we're seeing is, okay. And this is just hypothetically, Vanderbilt's sitting there undefeated right now. They're looking like the best team. Georgia 9-1, LSU 9-1, Missouri 10-2. But when you look down here at Tennessee 7-3, Kentucky at 7-4, Florida 6-4, we know that Florida right now is not a 6-4 team. They are really good. So we got to watch out for that. You're looking at the games that they're playing and you're seeing Florida, Kentucky playing a schedule like Arkansas. So throw the record out of the window when these teams play. But when you go into these games and you're looking at where Arkansas stands right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, they're fifth right now in the SEC. But Auburn's right there, 8-3. Alabama, they're playing like one of the best teams in the country. They're 7-3. It's going to be a deep conference, and I can't wait to see how this all plays out. But I have a really, really, really good feeling about Arkansas in conference play this year.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to play that Coach Cal clip right quick. Here we go.
When you have a new team, which I have every year I've coached, new team, you have to go and do the big stuff first. And then you break down, here's how we're playing in these situations. Because you don't have to worry about situations if you don't get the big stuff. They're never going to be a close game against a ranked team. But I tell you, those two games, Michigan State and Duke, helped us. We had a chance to win both, and we didn't. We didn't because they finished the game better than we finished the game. But we're getting better at it.
100%. And stuff like that, and like he's talking about, and me bringing up the Tennessee loss last season, I'll knock on wood, but I don't think we're going to see blowout losses like that this SEC season.
You might have one. It's not going to be. I think there's going to be a game where they come out just off, underestimate a team, or they're on because we're looking at this schedule and we're looking at the standings where some of these teams you think, okay, we have a Wednesday off because we know we have Tennessee coming up on Saturday or an Alabama, and then you just come out on the road and you just can't find that your rhythm. Let me get back over to my other screen right quick and the road, and you just the schedule 2 p.m. I'm trying to see if there's any of these games where you're playing like noon, 11 o'clock. Okay, Saturday at Mississippi State, 11 a.m. I mean, you're looking at something like that to where you see a game. That's the only one other than Missouri 11 a.m. games. Everything else is 3 o'clock. You have 2 p.m. at Bud Walton Arena. But other than that, Texas A&M, 11 a.m. You've seen them in the second half come out of that rhythm, come into the second half, and you score 50 points. So the timing of these games you're looking at, again, sets up to where this team can be special. And Transplanted Texan says, is DJ now reduced to a role player position? That's a tough question to answer because yes, because that's just how good Malik Thomas and Darius Acuff is. It's the thing that there's probably going to come a time where he is needed. But we're seeing Darius come in. We thought Malik Thomas was going to be the big guy, but Darius come out and it's like he's found his own. And the duo of, I'm sure there's going to be a time where Darius is going to have an 8-point game and Malik's going to be the one that has to go off for 24 points. That's what's going to be needed. But pressure, just like I talked with Trevin Brazile, Malik's not thinking I have to go out and give you 30 because we see now what happens when Trevin knocks. There's just so much talent on this team. It's not so much of is DJ a role player, but you can kind of see where outside of Darius and Malik, and okay, throw Trevin in there, those three, you could say everybody else on the team is role players. I've said that about Pringle and Ewan. Be the guy that's going to play defense. If Pringle's having a bad game, he's not playing defensively well, he's not scoring, come in with Ewan to come in and fill that role, because this bench scoring, you can get 20, 25 points a game from your bench. That is going to be huge in these games coming up in SEC play.
Well, I mean, if we want to talk about role players, bench players, all that, I think that, and outside of Jalen Williams and Isaiah Joe, I'm not a Oklahoma City Thunder fan. They're fun to watch, but you want to see a team that every player on that team has a role and does their job. They've lost 2 games on the whole season. So if you can sit here and have a squad that everybody has a role and can do their job, the sky's the limit, especially with this day and age in college basketball, because you have so many teams that don't know their identities. You have so many players that don't know their identities. So if you've got somebody leading the charge, whether it's a game that it's Darius Acuff or Malik Thomas, or if something happens that, there's going to be the game, because DJ Wagner is too good of a player and too seasoned of a player. If there's some situation or there's some game that one of those two, Acuff or Thomas, just aren't feeling it, or if it's both of them and somebody needs to take over, I mean, there's not a doubt in my mind that Coach Cal will give DJ Wagner the green light to go. I think that right now there's a lot of uncertainty amongst the players, because I feel like we've seen it in Carter Knox up until yesterday, of finding their roles, finding their spots with these younger talent that has come in. All of these guys there's nothing wrong with being a role player. You don't have to be, like I said, look what the Oklahoma City Thunder are doing. I think they're like 24-2 right now.
Yep.
They lost the second game of the season last night. And that's a complete team. And Arkansas has the pieces to be a complete team. It's just guys accepting what their roles are. You're going to get your time. You're going to get your moments. It's not necessarily going to be in every single game, but there's still things you have to do in every single game as a good teammate and as a role player.
Yeah. Well, because look, Malik Thomas only started 2 games this year, and he's averaging 16 a game. I think you don't mess with that. I think you keep him coming off the bench, because that's where the fact that we know he is a really good player coming off the bench, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with accepting a role. I don't think just because you have 10 guys on this squad that can play, you can only start 5 at a time. So if you're coming out and you're getting a feel for the game, and Malik Thomas in 27 minutes is giving you 16 points a game, that's a huge clip. That's really good. And if you start him, how is that going to affect his rhythm? How is that going to affect his mental, getting prepared mentally, that I'm starting now? Hold on. What's going on with the team? Why am I starting now when we've been winning? We've been playing. We've been lost 2 games this year, and I haven't had to start. So if you can keep in that rhythm, keep that rotation, that's where you're talking about this complete team. You're keeping everything together, and it's really refreshing knowing in December that they are starting to find the true rotation of this team. They haven't had to switch things around. We're not seeing a lot of players that 10 games, 5 starts, 10 games, 4 starts. Trevin, games played 9, he started 8 of them. Darius has started every game. Malik Ewan and Thomas, they've started a couple of games, and Billy Richmond's a couple of games. You're not seeing a lot of games where you're mixing up your rotation to see where you're at with this team. What that shows right there is they got their rotation. They look at you're going Darius, Brazil, Knox, DJ, and Nick Pringle. And if they keep doing that, maybe where you could see Ewan might get a start over Pringle because of the matchup situation. But if they can keep that where they're switching out their bigs because of the rotation, this team will make a Final Four run.
Well, and I think it should get embedded in players as early as possible, especially college, but down at the high school level. Worry about your minutes. Don't worry about if you start or not, because your total minutes in the game mean a lot more than you starting the game, and that's something I think that we see in Malik Thomas. You don't have to start the game. Come off the bench, be the spark off the bench. Keep doing what you're doing. I don't think it would. I think if anything, I'm not saying it would be completely detrimental for him to start, but keep him coming off the bench because number one, that's like we talked about, is kind of finding kind of your different rotations, if you will, and having it to where, hey, your starters, you've got this spark, your bench players, you've got this spark, and rotate them in and out. Yeah, you're going to mix and mesh and whatever, but I think doing it this way and having Malik Thomas come off the bench will help you SEC play, tournament time, whatnot, because if you hit those dry spots, those dry spells, you get in those droughts, somebody that's used to coming off the bench, they can get right back in rhythm with it. So I think that there's too much focus on who starts and who doesn't, mainly with players and whatnot. So just bottom line of it, worry about your minutes. Don't worry about starting.
Yeah, and this right here, do the Boogie fans now see that there was no place for him on this year's team? I wouldn't say that there's not a place for him on this team because, of course, he's a great player, but it's the fact that he's a starter. He started all 10 games for Florida, and he's giving you 12 points a game. Now, he's shooting horrible from the three-point line. He's only shooting 21% from the three-point line. He shot 47 threes and only hit 10 of them. So
he also lost 2 games for him.
Yes. Yeah. But it shows you, all right, throw him to where he's coming off the bench. If he feels like he's the guy mentally and he can't handle, it's not so much a place on the team. If he can't handle his role of you're coming off the bench like a Malik Thomas and giving us 27 minutes a game, and then you're giving us 12 points a game, we could really use that. But if his mindset is, I'm a starter, I'm the guy, him being at Florida is the perfect spot for him. Because, like I said again, in the game of basketball, that difference in mentality of I'm a starter or I'm accepting I'm coming off the bench, major kudos to Malik Thomas. Coming in and being the guy and you're coming off the bench. There's nothing wrong with that. You're not any less of a player just because you're coming off the bench. And we've seen that with Malik Thomas.
Mm-hmm. Prime example, Devin Booker and Reed Shepherd, both Calipari players, came off the bench.
And there's a guy. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I think that looking at Coach Calipari's last several rosters over the years and seeing the talent he brings in and seeing the guys that he's had come off the bench or whatever, these players need to realize, like, it doesn't matter if I come off the bench or not. Like, there's still a spot for me. I think Reed Shepherd, hell, he was drafted 3rd, I think, in the draft that he went in. So it's one of those things that if you're on a Coach Calipari team, you're going to get looked at.
Yeah. And I sent you a clip on TikTok. We're about to go on a commercial break, if you load this clip up, there's a guy on TikTok. His name's Eddie Links. He is a big Kentucky guy, but he threw up a clip of Darius Acuff, and he really explains very well the Calipari situation in getting guys ready to go to the NBA, opposed to players just going to another school because they want to start and chuck up a bunch of shots. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick commercial break. After the break, we'll dive more into this basketball team, and then we'll switch over to football. But I should have told you that before we went on air, but it's just a very good analogy of what Calipari does and his expectation for these kids. There was a presser where Calipari was talking about the money these players are making and just saying, hey, look, we're paying you now. You're going to come in and I'm going to get you ready for the next level. I want you to come here because you want to win, opposed to going to another spot, like Florida or wherever because you want to be the man. And hey, that's where we are. There's no fault to Boogie Flam for going to Florida. I don't think anybody misses Boogie right now. I think Boogie found his spot. We loved him when he was at Arkansas, but we're seeing what can happen if you get a little bit of an upgrade between Darius and Malik. Yeah, he's still good at Florida, but yet the two we have right now, even you can even throw DJ in there, a better fit than if Boogie was here and not accepting that he is a starter. But again, we're going to take a quick commercial break. After the break, we'll deep dive into that, and then we'll transition into the football and talk a little bit of Heisman. Did Diego Pavia get robbed of the Heisman, as some are saying? We'll catch you after the break. Searching for premium brewery products that will take your daily routine to the next level? Look no further than Sterling Soap Company. Our handmade soaps, aftershaves, and balms are made with only the finest ingredients that give you the ultimate grooming experience. With a variety of scents to choose from, there's something for everyone. Plus, our products are crafted in small batches to ensure the highest level of quality. So why wait? Visit www.sterlingsoap.com or visit our retail store at 16 West Walnut Street in Paris, Arkansas. Shop our collection and discover the difference for yourself. Upgrade your grooming routine with Sterling Soap Company. Are you looking for a place to grab a cold drink and some delicious food? Look no further than Arkansas Brewing Company. Located at 201 South 1st Street in beautiful downtown Ozark, our establishment offers a wide selection of craft beers and tasty eats. But what sets us apart is our welcoming atmosphere and friendly staff. At Arkansas Brewing Company, you'll always feel like part of the family. So visit Destiny and Christopher Brockett and staff today and see for yourself what makes us the go-to spot for locals and visitors alike. Arkansas Brewing Company, come for the drinks and stay for the friends. Attention DIYers and home improvement enthusiasts. Are you searching for the right tools and the supplies to tackle your next project? Look no further than Mentor's Hardware Store. With locations in Ozark, Alma, and Clarksville, our vast selection of hardware and building materials is sure to have everything you need, whether you're fixing a leaky faucet or building a new deck. Plus, our knowledgeable staff is always on hand to offer expert advice and guidance. And with our competitive prices and convenient online ordering, Mentor's Hardware Store is your one-stop shop for all your DIY needs. Visit us today and let's build something amazing together. Are you looking to take your career to the next level? Look no further than ATU Ozark Campus. As a two-year satellite campus of Arkansas Tech University, we're dedicated to a quality workforce education, industry partnerships for in-demand jobs, and tailored paths for success. Our programs are led by industry professionals. Whether it's a certificate or you're aiming for a graduate degree, ATU Ozark has you covered. Visit our website at www.atu.edu/Ozark or contact us at 479-667-2117. Your future begins here. Welcome to Ozark Area Chamber of Commerce, where our mission is simple: encourage, promote, and aid an enduring environment of shared economic opportunity and civic development for the Ozark, Arkansas area. Whether you're a local business owner or a resident, we've got something for you. Shop our unique local businesses, explore the beauty of Ozark, and savor local flavors and find cozy accommodations. Join us in building a stronger community. And to learn more, contact us at 479-667-2525. Remember, together we thrive. And welcome back to the Hog Talk podcast. And now that, again, basketball's full swing, and this team is just, it's big that you get a win. We're not talking about another close loss. And, we've kind of give them the benefit of the doubt for the Duke game, Michigan State game of they're finally going to click. And then it turns into moral victories. It turns into, all right, this is a pattern. Arkansas is playing these big games, but they can't seem to win them. And for them to come out and pull ahead and beat a team like Texas Tech, which being ranked 16th, Arkansas is ranked 17th. I mean, I think both teams proved they are underrated. Both teams were playing like top 10 teams. I mean, those were a Michigan State type Duke type game. It was a war, and you could see Texas Tech again in the tournament, and Texas Tech can make a run. Big time game for Arkansas. I think you can look back and what was there come point where we could look back on this season and what was the game that really turned the corner for Arkansas? We could point back to this Texas Tech game and be like, okay, neutral court. They went on and it wasn't like a Michigan team where you beat the name. It wasn't a highly ranked team. You beat Michigan and New York, and then you kind of went down 0-5 starting SEC play. You beat a really, really good Texas Tech team that, again, Elite Eight, Final Four type team. And they get that confidence moving into this game against Queens, and then you see what's coming up, SEC play. We'll look back on this Texas Tech game and see that, all right, this could be where everything started to really click, and know that a guy like Malik Thomas has a bad game. Somebody's going to step up. Now we know there's going to be somebody that steps up and really comes through for this team, whether it's a Knox or a Brazil.
Yeah, maybe it'll be Darius Acuff. We got that clip ready.
Okay.
You want to cue it?
Yeah.
Let's see.
There are no other Darius Acuffs in college basketball. Darius Acuff came into Arkansas a 5-star guy ready to go top 10 in the draft. He made that decision when he committed to John Calipari. So he's going through the exact same mold as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Devin Booker, Jamal Murray, John Wall. The list goes on and on. Darius Acuff is in a can't-fail position because he's following a mold that's already been produced. In the NIL era, these kids want to reinvent the wheel. They want to go to Alabama, throw up 60 shots a game, and then wonder where their NBA draft pick is. You're not going to the NBA. You just spent 3 years not playing basketball. John Calipari is still at Arkansas developing real NBA players like Darius Acuff. So he has no choice but to go in, succeed, be a top 5 draft pick, and one of the best players in the NBA.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very, very good clip. And this guy right here, for being a Kentucky guy, he's really come on as a content creator that you're looking at. He really researches the game of ball. He loves Calipari. And you got to give Calipari his flowers of somebody late in his coaching career. You're getting guys now in this NIL era and taking full advantage of it. And you're going to be able to do like what Dave Van Horn does and get any player that you want because they're seeing the success. They're seeing that even this late, he is still developing these guys to just come here for a year. I don't want you for 2 or 3 years. Come in for a year. And you keep having that talent year after year. And in that 1 year, they're giving you all they have, or even if it is 2 years, giving you all they have. If you're on the cusp of NBA draft, or I'm going to come back for a second year, or in Trevin Brazil's spot, what, 5th year now,
8th year something.
But what if that gets Trevin Brazil where he has a spot like a Jalen Williams, or it takes him a few years in the G League to get going? It's going to be the part where Arkansas is going to be the elite team in the SEC because of what their schedule is, how many tough games they're going to get, how much TV time they're going to get, and how much NIL money they're going to get. Cal is going to not be hurting for any talent years to come until he decides to step away from the University of Arkansas.
When it comes to NIL and Coach Calipari, here's the thing, is NIL is not going to hurt John Calipari and wherever he's coaching, Arkansas, Kentucky before that. NIL is going to hurt the player that goes to the highest bidder and ends up at Arizona State, ends up at Kentucky now, ends up at wherever else. I'm not going to, that's hard to use Michigan. They end up at Michigan. Those players are hurting themselves because they went to the highest bidder. And honestly, outside of his knee injury, I think it was his knee injury, like Jaden Quaintance at Kentucky now, I'm looking at you because you went to the highest bidder to Arizona State. Now you're at Kentucky. I think it was last season you didn't play, or you played a little bit. You haven't played this season. Yeah, you're still projected at a high lottery pick, which I don't understand. But all NIL is doing to a lot of college players, especially in basketball, is just hurting them and hurting their draft stock because they're going somewhere and they're not getting prepared for the NBA. They're going like I said, they're going to Arizona State, they're going to Washington, they're going to Utah. I mean, and this is nothing against BYU because they've been a good team for a while, but you're going to these places where you're not being developed. You're going to these places where you can have the ball and, like you said, shoot 60 times a game. You're going to where you're not developing anything. All you're doing is putting up shots and hoping to score 30, hoping to score 40, whatever the case is. It's only going to get you so far. And you're going to end up in the G League. And they're going to be fighting for a roster spot. And then you're going to end up overseas. So I look at it, why would you not take the path that's already been proven, especially if you're a guard? And I will still say, and still a big, even though it's been more obvious with guards than John Calipari. But if you're a guard in high school and you're one of these top guards, why would you want to go anywhere else and to play for John Calipari? Just seeing what he does and who he puts in the league.
Well, and the big thing is too, go back to Texas Tech. They're the big spenders right now. Their football team, what, fourth? What was their seeding in the college football playoff? Fourth?
They're fourth. Yeah.
You got the fourth. All right. The men's basketball team, 16th, but they're a very good team. Women's basketball, 12-0 right now. Softball team went to the Women's College World Series. They're the ones that are giving out all the money for a whole program. And we talked about this a little bit on Thursday's show. This is what Arkansas can be, where you're throwing out all the money and you're getting success. The Texas Tech needs to be the model when we look at what we want an athletic program to be. We were talking about Wake Forest and building that complex around the stadium to try to boost their football team, but then it can turn into basketball and softball and baseball. What Texas Tech is doing in all their sports with their NIL stuff, when you're looking at their sports page, and I'm looking at the women's basketball schedule right now, 12-0 at the top, it has NIL deals where you click the tab. You're playing, and Texas Tech's played Mississippi State. They've played Arkansas. I'm just looking at the game. And then they play in the Big 12, which is no slouch of a league for the women's basketball. You have to take advantage of it and stay and keep that money coming in, because if it's not, then it doesn't matter if Calipari's there. You're not going to get the roster to come in. You're not going to come in and get a guy for $75,000 a year when he can go to Texas Tech and make $1 million a year. There's a huge contrast of what you could be making at a place like Texas Tech, and you're having the success. That's what the football team needs to be doing, is getting the money and then turning it into success, because if that's the missing link to this whole athletic program right now, transitioning over to football talk. This is why we've been screaming at the top of our lungs. We want NIL for football. We want the football program to be so good, because you as a whole can be the new Texas Tech, where you're spending big in all three sports and you're having success in all three sports. Indiana, Texas Tech, Vandy, Arizona State. Look at these teams that are spending the money. Let's see what Virginia Tech does with their spending. Let's see where Virginia Tech is at 2 years with James Franklin. Let's see where they are as a program when you have a high-profile coach and the money, because looking at what Arkansas has done, we still haven't heard a promise. Yeah, they got the GM, home run hire, but what money is he working with? What is he going to do? Are we going to hear from him more than we did Remy Cofield? But with these coaching hires and what we're seeing, you're only as good as your next job or your last job. I'm not seeing anything that's coming in from a coaching standpoint that is wowing me to say, all right, well, this team has a chance to make a difference in year 2.
I'm not going to knock any of these hires, because like I've said before, I'm just going to wait and see what the product on the field is next year. The only thing that I really will say about it is, Coach Silverfield and Hunter Yurchek sat there in that initial press conference and oversold us. And again, I'm not taking any shots at any of these coaches, but we sat there and we heard about all this money that was going to be spent. We heard about all this SEC experience and NFL experience. And just to see who we've hired so far, I mean, I'm not saying that they're not good coaches, but when you sat here in the press conference and told us what you were going to do in the splash hires that you were going to make, I mean, it's underwhelming. And even with the defensive line coach, I was looking at him, 8 years previously. So he was Tennessee Volunteers as a defensive analyst, which, let's be real, a lot of times when you end up as an analyst on one of these programs, you got fired from your previous job. So this is kind of a holdover to get, to the next step. Previous 8 seasons, you were a defensive line coach for the Jaguars, the Bengals, and who was that other one? The Dolphins. So I know 2 of those 3 had some of the worst defensive lines in the NFL over those 8 seasons. So, before that, he was the co-defensive coordinator at Clemson. He recruited Xavier Kelly, who played at Clemson, then transferred to Arkansas, and then spent 1 season with the Baltimore Ravens before no longer being in the league. There's just not a lot of things here that I can grab hold on and say like, oh, this is why they got him. But we're seeing all this. Oh, he's got SEC experience. He's got NFL experience. And I feel like we just throw that around because it sounds good. But at the same time, there's not a whole lot of substance there. So again, until that there's a product on the field, who knows what we really have. I know a lot of folks liked the hire of the Jacksonville State offensive coordinator as quarterbacks coach. I know they were trying to get UCA's head coach to be Arkansas's quarterbacks coach, and he turned it down. But like you and I talked about, I believe that UCA is Nathan Brown's dream job. Graduated high school at Russellville, went to UCA, played at UCA, has coached at UCA since 2010. So I feel like he is where he wants to be for the rest of his life. More power to him. A lot of people can't find that. I'm just not overly hyped as some of the other Arkansas media personalities are about this coaching staff.
Yeah. And transitioning into where I could really take the floor and talk about this whole subject for the next 45 minutes on my own because of the similarities I have with this school. Josh Pate was on the Chuck and Bo show talking about what Arkansas could be. And he brought up a comparison of the Clemson Tigers. I sat here 4 years ago and said, previously to Dabo, Arkansas is Clemson. Their athletic programs, their football programs were identical. If you look at the history of Clemson Tiger football, they won a national championship in 81, went 12-0. 82, 83, 9 wins. And then you look at the 80s, the late 80s, 87, 88, 89, 90, went 10 wins. I know we're talking ACC, SEC. It's just the fact of the program. Then you get Tommy Bowden come in, Bobby Bowden's son, and he was doing well. I mean, 9 wins in 2000, 7 wins, 9 wins. Had a 6-5 season in 04, 8-4, and then he had 9 wins in 2007. But he could never get over that hump. He was the Mike Anderson of Clemson football. He could get you to a point where you're not beating Georgia Tech to get to the conference championship game, but you always found a way to beat his dad at Florida State. And to the Clemson fans back then, that was enough. Beat Florida State every other year or whatever, every 3 years, because 1, they were in the ACC, and 2, that was his dad. But it finally got enough to where that wasn't enough for the fans. They went 3-3, and then Dabo takes over in 2009. They go 7-6. His first full year, they went 9-5. But then in 2010, they go 6-7. After that, since 2011, Clemson's not lost or not won under 10 games other than the last 2 years, where 23 won 9 games, and 25 they won 7. When you're looking at a team where a 9-4 season is a down year for Clemson, that's where Arkansas can get to if you put these pieces together. If you get the NIL money, you could turn Arkansas into what Clemson was with everything that's going on in college football, because you do have the money you can tap into. You can bring in the talent. You can bring in the money. You have the stadium and you have the facilities, but with the athletic director we have now currently, can we get to that point? Is that the missing link of we need a new athletic director to come in and make those tough decisions and get Arkansas to that next level?
I think outside of the athletic director too, with NIL, you've got to have a halfway competent coach. So I truly think that, Ryan Silverfield has it in him. And it's not a direct shot at Sam Pittman. It's just, I don't believe you were a head coach. You're an offensive line coach. So in the realm of things, you can throw the money all over the place, but if you don't have somebody competent to run the team, then all bets are off. But like we've heard, and hopefully we see it or continue to hear it. Anytime Coach Silverfield has needed something previously when he was at Clemson, whether it was money, whatever else, he's not afraid to ask for it. So it's one of those things. I feel like that if if the stories are true, if he's out there and NIL is an issue, or a coaching salary for his assistant coaches is an issue, let's hope it's true, and that he goes to his boss or goes to the board or whoever else and says, hey, somebody needs to pony up.
Yep.
Point blank, period.
That's what has to happen. But how much faith does the boosters have in Hunter Yurachek? And I'm going back again. You look at the 2008 Clemson team with Tommy Bowden. Very similar to Houston Nutt when you had Darren McFadden, Felix Jones, and Peyton Hillis. Clemson had C.J. Spiller and James Davis. I really wanted some way, somehow, for them to meet in a bowl game that year, because I would have loved to have seen James Davis, C.J. Spiller going up against Felix Jones and Darren McFadden. That Clemson team in 7-6 that had C.J. Spiller, who was a Heisman finalist that year, went 7-6. Very similar to Arkansas's last year, where they went 7-6. I believe they got beat by Michigan. Was it when they got beat by Michigan in that bowl game, McFadden's last year, or was that post?
I don't remember. I really don't remember who we played that year. Or was that Wisconsin?
It's just similar. It's similar when you look at that.
Was that the Wisconsin one?
What's that?
I think we played Wisconsin.
Okay, Wisconsin. Yeah, that's right.
And
that's right.
It was down in Florida.
Yep, that's right. That's who it was. It wasn't. It was Wisconsin. But you see the similarities in the programs. You see the similarities in the talent that Clemson had and what Arkansas had. Clemson at the time didn't have a good quarterback. You had Willie Corn and you had Charlie Whitehurst. It wasn't until you got a Taj Boyd, and when Venables and Dabo started to click, that you've seen what can happen. And they got blown out against Virginia in the Orange Bowl. It was like 70-20 something. Horrible loss. But the very next year, you had DeAndre Hopkins, and you beat LSU in the Peach Bowl. And from then on, it was guns a-blazing. Then you start going to the college football playoffs. You start winning 2 national championships. Dabo's been under fire because of his NIL. Is he running out of gas? And hasn't clearly been the same since he let go of his staff. That's why I say with Silverfield, build you a staff, build you some guys that can come in and be a defensive threat, because that's what's winning some of these games, is the defenses that we're seeing in college football. And when we get to these college football playoffs, we'll see how all this plays out.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Only Diego Pavia has brought a worse PR. Yeah, absolutely. Gym tan laundry. That's what I said when I seen those three guys. And this is another thing when we talk about, did Diego Pavia get robbed of the Heisman? I just threw that out there. I mean, it's a resounding no, because he was a lot of hype. What did he do? What Heisman moment did he have this year?
He didn't.
I mean,
Typically it's, the best quarterback on the best team. And, here we go once again. Indiana's, honestly, I feel like that overall this was a pretty weak Heisman season, ceremony, all the above. I mean, it just wasn't that. I mean, the players, more power to them for getting what they're getting, but at the same time, I just feel like this was one of the weakest Heisman finalist pool that we've had in a long time.
yeah. And I'm looking at Vandy's schedule right now. You lost 30-14 to Alabama. Yes, you beat LSU. You squeaked out a win over LSU 31-24. You had another big chance against Texas, lost that 34-31. Other than that, you beat Tennessee, but beat them handily, but you didn't have that big win. And a lot of that is when you look at their schedule, you played Virginia, you played South Carolina, LSU, Missouri, Auburn, Kentucky, Tennessee. Brandon Walker brought up a very, very good point of you're seeing a lot of these 10-2 teams now because the conferences are so big. And this is where we're going to start seeing these 9-game schedule come in, to where truly no SEC schedule is easy. You're playing 9 conference games. You're not going to have a 10-2 Vandy team begging that they deserve to be in the college football playoff, but then you really deep dive into their schedule and the 2 big games where they could really have bolstered their resume. Texas was down and could not beat them. And then you turn into Texas now beating Vandy. They beat Arkansas. And then now people are having an argument. Should Texas be in the college football playoff? They're reaching to make sure they get enough of these teams in the college football playoff. But these conferences are so big, they're not playing everybody. They're not playing a lot of the big teams like they used to when we had divisions.
Well, it's one of those with I'm glad that they're going to the 9 games just to shut up a lot of the folks in other conferences that talk playing the 4 cupcakes. Really, outside of the Big Ten, everybody has a pretty fairly ho-hum conference schedule. It's pretty weak.
Yeah.
So I think that, going to the 9 games is the smart thing to do. The Big Ten's already there. And at the same time, too, all these teams, I hope that they jump on board to stop scheduling Notre Dame, since Notre Dame has this new guarantee coming up that if they're in the top whatever, they'll be in the playoffs. Stop scheduling Notre Dame. Stop scheduling all the cupcakes, which we'll start seeing with, having the 9-game conference schedules or conference season. At the same time, it doesn't matter if there were 24 teams in this playoff. Whoever's 25th through 30th are going to be complaining that they should be in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the never-ending spell. That's never going to go away. It doesn't matter how many teams you put in this. There's always going to be the fans or the media from schools 25 through 32 complaining about why they should be in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you go to with Fernando Mendoza. They had their win. They beat Oregon 30-20. Because when you look at Indiana's schedule, yes, you played Oregon. You had a 63-10 win over Illinois, but you didn't play Ohio State or Michigan in this schedule. You played Illinois, Iowa, Michigan State, UCLA, Penn State, and Wisconsin. And Purdue. You didn't play a lot of the big. It wasn't like you went on this gauntlet like in the SEC. And then I poke more at the SEC West, those old SEC West teams, and truly what kind of a gauntlet you go through when you're playing an LSU, a Texas, an A&M, an Ole Miss, an Auburn, back to back to back to back. And then maybe you have a game off, and then you play Alabama. that it's a true gauntlet of these teams. And that's when we're going to see, I wouldn't necessarily say a fraud, but you're going to see a big difference of not having to play your true top teams in your conference. And you get the Ohio State Buckeyes in the Big Ten championship. You win that. You had one game. If you look at that, I guess if you want to count the Illinois game, but you only had one big game that you had a Heisman moment against Oregon. How much of that Ohio State win propelled him to win the Heisman, opposed to Diego is sitting at home because they didn't make the SEC championship game?
He's made more in his college career in the last couple of years, at least, than a lot of people are going to see the majority of their life. So he'll be all right when he goes and plays for the CFL, because he's not going to make it in the NFL.
But you see another comparison is when it relates to Arkansas. What was Diego Pavia before he went to Vandy? For all these people talking about Kane Archer and talking about his size and he can't do this and he can't do that, you get a kid who is the same size as Diego Pavia, come in with that heart, that grind, and can read a defense. He could be the Diego Pavia of Arkansas. That's why I think that they're missing on this. I'm not saying he's going to come in and be a Ryan Mallett and when I say Diego Pavia, I'm talking about polarizing from a popularity standpoint. I'm not saying he's going to come in and be an All-American quarterback or Heisman contender. I'm saying homegrown kid, same size, he can come in with the potential of being a leader of the Razorbacks. You had Austin Allen, Connor Nolan for a little bit. You're only looking at his metrics of his size compared to what he can really do on a football field. So in essence, miss me with the whole fact of, well, he's too short, he's too this, he's too that, because now for the last 2 years, we've seen a kid the same size, not ranked. He come from JUCO and led Vandy to their best wins, their best 2 seasons they've ever had.
Is some of it, though, that some fans, or you in this sense, even do you feel like that Kane Archer wasn't given a fair shot, or is it more afraid that he's going to go and do it somewhere else?
I don't think he was given a fair shot. I think Bobby Petrino screwed him on that. I think he didn't jive with Bobby Petrino. And it's a very similar situation to Drake Lindsay. We know what happened with the offensive coordinator and all that. I'm not saying he's going to come in and be a world beater, but I'm saying at least give the kid the opportunity to come to Arkansas and win. Give him the opportunity to come to Arkansas and be a leader. That homegrown talent, we talk about getting these Arkansas guys and you're not offering them. You're talking to them when they're younger, but Bobby Petrino didn't want Kane Archer. A lot of it fell on Sam Pittman, but a lot of it was the jive between them two. And then you look at, the situation with Lindsay, and you're hungry. Oh, hell, I didn't even know what time it was.
I got another show in 45 minutes.
Good, so, look, but I'm telling you, yeah. But we see what's going on with that. I think they should have gave Kane, and I'm glad you put that post up. I'm glad you put your phone up, because
I'd like to see Kane Archer here too. I mean, it's one of those things we talk about having or keeping the top talent here in the state, and at the same time, I do think that things like 24/7 and the way that they evaluate was taking his size, his measurements way too seriously, and holding it against him, because I just look at his stats and they say otherwise. So
well, he lost one game his whole career.
Well,
yes, it was his last game. He had a bad game. But that was the only bad game he had.
And I'm not saying it will happen, folks, so take this with a grain of salt. But with Whittingham retiring abruptly, not really abruptly, season's over, whatever, Kane Archer can be released from his national letter of intent.
Yeah.
So if your coach leaves before you get to campus, you're allowed to go. So we'll see what happens.
I just think he needs a chance. You have 100 and something scholarship offers, but if he wants to try to go be the man somewhere else and it's too late, hey, they've already burnt the bridge. I totally understand that to the Archer camp, but for them to not at least give him a chance, I think is foolish to come in and be a quarterback at the University of Arkansas. And that's where I leave it at that. I mean, he comes in and he's just not going to work out. Then he has the chance to go somewhere else and be the guy. So that's what I wish for. But Adam, I'm going to let you get out of here. I appreciate that because I lost track of time of how long we were on the air. So, but guys, 30 minutes from now, Adam's going to eat. He's going to be not hangry. He's going to come back ready to go for Hog HQ Live. Pause. And thank everybody for tuning in tonight. We'll be back Thursday at 6:05. We'll announce our holiday schedule. We're probably going to take a week off during Christmas break for everybody to be with their families, give everybody a chance to enjoy the holidays. But for Adam Hall, I'm Porter Hayes, and we'll catch you on Thursday.